What was most notable for me about Mamdani's win was, as you say, firstly, he got a majority, not just a plurality. But the amount of votes cast was quite shocking. I mean, it was over 2 million votes in the end, and that might not sound like a lot for New York City, but
It was the highest turnout, 1969.
John Lindsay.
That was a year that they elected a Republican who you could make a case was the worst mayor in the history of New York. Although you had David Dinkins and you had Bill de Blasio, but John Lindsay was someone who completely turned the city in the wrong direction, and it never fully recovered from it. So here we are, decades later, and the highest turnout since that election is for a Democratic Socialist. Now, I want to make one more point about the New York race, which is it was very clever politics by Mamdani to appeal to the day-to-day kitchen table needs of young New Yorkers.
Yeah.
And he was able to do it by promising socialistic solutions. And he knows that those young people never lived through the Soviet Union, Cuba, the tyranny, and the millions of people killed under socialism and communism. They don't have any recollection of that. They weren't alive when it happened. They have no resistance to that because they don't know anything about it. And so the smooth-talking Mamdani was able to convince them that he will solve all of their problems, and they don't have the experience or knowledge to know better.
It's funny you put it in that particular way because the exit polling data behind who voted in which way kind of thing. It's you had Mamdani was favored by the college educated and Cuomo was favored by the actual working classes. And that's one interesting data point because you've got these, because they've got student debt, they think that makes them working class. And it's a funny way to look at it back, especially considering Mamdani. And this is one of the criticisms that I think really should have landed a lot harder during the debates, is that he's never actually had a proper job. I mean, he's worked for his mother, and then he got on the government teat, as it were. And, he still lives in a rent-controlled apartment, there's been some scandals about whether he's entitled to it or not. But this is somebody who's never built anything other than a campaign and perhaps a movement. We'll find that out in the future. He's never worked at anything except
that's why he aimed his campaign at gullible young people who will fall for anything because they don't stand for anything really other than, trying to make a living, and that's understandable. But they don't have the depth to understand what they've just done. And it's the goose that laid the golden egg has now been killed. And I think we're going to see, I use the word exodus, and I think that's the appropriate word for what's going to happen in New York, an exodus out of there to, to the south, largely to Florida, to Texas, to Arizona, other places.